It is I, your main man ender with the Archangel of RPGs, and one of my long-time subscribers, Fallout Monkey, a great commenter, requested this video of me. This video, he said, my main man, you're the only man that calls it like it is, the only man whose opinion matters on the state of RPGs. Now, I have liberally paraphrased his comment, but what he says is, asks, can I describe from the bottom to the top D&D campaign settings, the pre-boxed campaign settings? And I can, and I will. Now, I'm going to be doing 11 of them from the bottom to the top right here and right now. But first, I will tell you, I have read some of the stories of Lankmar, never played it. I have played a little Mysteria, or whatever it's called, but not enough to rank those. So those two are not going to be part of this. However, we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to pick up the barrel and scrape this crusty shit off the bottom of it. The dead cockroaches, the dried up husks. And what we're going to find when we push it all together, it spells Spelljammer. That's right. Spelljammer is trash. Now, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know. I don't know why they tried to make Dungeons & Dragons into a science fiction role-playing game. There are good science fiction role-playing games out there. I suggest if you want to play a science fiction role-playing game, do not call it Dungeons & Dragons. Do not play Dungeons & Dragons. Do not ever pick up Spelljammer. Spelljammer was so terrible that they achieved somehow making an Illithid look like ass. There's a picture of an Illithid on the cover of one of their boxes in like a little ship. And he's like, and you're like, man, I could just rock up and just steal on this fool. He looks like the kind of dude you could just sneak one in on, and it would be straight. At least it would be straight for you, because he ain't gonna hit you back. It ain't gonna be on like that. This Illithid looked like a punk-ass trick, and it's the whole setting, it's the whole thing, the whole campiness. He's like in a little spaceship flying around. Come on, dude, that's not Dungeons & Dragons. A damn spaceship, a Spelljammer helm. What are you thinking? What the hell is wrong with you? Our ships are powered by magic. Power your ass into. I mean, what a bunch of goddamn morons. Let's just call it like it is. You have loads of fantasy settings that take place in space operas, hardcore science fiction, whatever you're looking for. There's tons of them. Star Wars, Star Trek, Traveler, whatever you want, man. It's out there. There's tons of games you can do this with. Dungeons & Dragons is not one of them. The game didn't even make sense. Like, I run around people with like black power rifles and like some shoddy ass, like just a ship. It's like a normal ship you sail on the ocean with, slightly like modified, and then it has this Spelljammer helm where you fly around magic. You know, it's one thing to be plane shifting and so forth, astrally traveling, but to be flying between worlds in these ruddy ass ships, it's just goofy, man. It is just goofy. Yes, I played Spelljammer before, and I mean, I'm just like, dude, are you kidding me? Plus, then you know, a lot of times you go into the hierarchy. Any type of game where you have captains and stuff like that can be it can be a problem. It can definitely be a problem. Sometimes it can work okay, but you know that is it'll itself be a problem. The game flying around in a ship, that's not Dungeons & Dragons. That's not fantasy role playing. If you line up every single one of these settings and you watched them, they were on the Sci-Fi Network, because Lord knows that's where they're going to be. Spelljammer would be a show you would not watch past the opening bumper. You know, ooh, I am out. I'm out to the next show. I'm looking for anything but Spelljammer. Absolutely anything. It's just horrible. Just horrible. Spelljammer gets a 0 out of 100. Spelljammer sucks. Now we're going to go on to Kara-Tur, Oriole Adventures. Call it what you will, but don't call me if you're playing it. Now, you might really like the Oriental Asian theme and flair into a Dungeons & Dragons game, to a fantasy game. And if you do, this may get substantially more points with you. But understand, I have been horribly scarred and traumatized through years and years of seeing this settings exploited to the point that I just hate it all. I just ravenously hate it now. It's just something that's just been completely demolished for me through the Dragon magazines and the ninja class. I save against damage. I have a katana. It does more damage than your bastard sword. I mean, you just want to just fly bionic elbow, drop him to the ground, Donnie clubbering, you understand? 4/5 of this old one man's body, if you understand what I'm talking about, baby. So, Kara-Tur, no, absolutely not. I have no love for it. I have no enjoyment. I know at one point, way back in the day, I like ninja movies. I like that stuff. I thought, you know, throwing stars were neat and such. But it was something that was just completely slaughtered early on in my gaming experience, and I have been twisted and tainted and forever scarred since. Yeah, it pretty much was that bad. It was over and over and over again. Redundancy. People like just running around with katanas for no reason. To be like, how would your character ever have gotten a katana? You're a backwoods savage. Oh no, I have a katana. It does the most damage. Backwoods savage. I'm gonna place this. It doesn't make any sense, you know. So. Oriole Adventures, no thank you. And then number 10. And at number 9 is Eberron. Yes, it's Dungeons & Dragons does steampunk style. We have trains! Oh, man. Oh, man. Even all the riches that bugbears hold collectively, I am not playing me no Eberron. Ugh, God, that is just, it's a balls-ass setting. You have ancient, crumbling giant ruins. Okay, that's kind of neat. But you have airships. Don't put science fiction stuff in fucking D&D. It's fantasy. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It's not airships and fucking spelljamming helms. That shit goes in a different game. In a different game. I don't know why they keep trying to push this sewage out. And that's pretty much what Eberron is. I got 2 words for your ass. Warforged. And it was hard for me not to put Warforged as my least favorite race in my least favorite race video. But, going on to the next installment here, we have in at number 8, Dragonlance. That's right, Dragonlance, the home of the Kinder, who are, if you haven't seen it, my least favorite race. Kinder destroy games. Dragonlance is a poorly written setting. I've read the books. The writing is horrible. The characters are stock and melodramatic, and it has so many problems with it. Okay, first of all, dragons. Dungeons and Dragons. They made their dragons horses. Their dragons are horses, and also lizard man-like things. The God, what are they called? The fucking dragon men. I had it a minute ago. I did. But I don't now. The dragon men fucking blew. They were horrible. I don't know why. Like, the idea seems like somehow it could work, but they would have them explode on you and all kinds of just campy stuff. They just had so many qualities that make fantasy shows be, you know, that make them just terrible. And so many of those ideas seem to be in there. They had steel for money, which I liked. It was a good idea. The Dragonlance itself was kind of neat. The old, wars and so forth. But anything that starts using a dragon as a mount, I started getting over that Anne McCaffrey shit like pretty quickly. It is not for me. A dragon is a tremendously intelligent, ancient, powerful creature that is fucking way better than you, Monkey Man. It is just way better. And it should be something up high on a pedestal. That's why I like to put a dragon. When I see him just saddles on them, I mean, yeah, it looks like a cool artwork picture, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, man, come on now. Particularly in D&D, where dragons really are smart. It's not like, something like your Anne McCaffrey or, whatever, where the dragons are just basically animals, or maybe even intelligent animals, but a dragon isn't that even in Dragonlance, but they're just reduced out that way. I don't like it. Lord Soft there, he was kind of a neat character. Of course, you're Rastalin, who I took a big fantasy. It had like every fantasy character there was. From Harry Potter to Captain Kirk style, Star Wars, everything on there. And of course, when I got Rastalin, when I answered it quite truthfully, Rastalin, okay, I see why I always liked that character. I liked him. I always just wished he would delay Fireball Blast everyone else in the party over and over again. They were just terrible. Like, they were just all whiny. And I've read a ton of their books early on because I was able to get a hold of that stuff, and I hungered for anything D&D. But I would read it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of jacking me. Like, at the same time, I would only be like, eh. And they had Fizzban. Fizzban is horrible. That was another horrible idea. Their whole mythology, the whole pantheon there, I really disliked. They had some kind of dragon goddess, I think, that was kind of neat. But overall, Dragonlance not good. River, Wind, and Swift Dick, or whatever they were called. Oh, they were so stupid. The names are horrible in Dragonlance. Like Flint, really? Dwarf Flint? I do not like when you just start using, English-style names for the aliens. And there is no place that's more a defender of that than Greyhawk. That's right, Greyhawk is next on the list. It seemed like a setting that was... They could just never... The setting they couldn't. It was the setting, Greyhawk, the world that can. It's clearly devised before people really put thought and stock into making their worlds neat and cool. Like, it's just not neat, and it's just not cool. That's Greyhawk. Hey, Greyhawk! Not neat, not cool. If you don't want to have fun, play this shit. It was always the guys who ran Greyhawk. All of them were there. They're like, we roll 3d6 right down the line. I have a 4 strength. Yeah, your character's a crippled mental retard. Go out and play that, kid, so I can kill him in the 3rd game session. I'm better than you are. It was always these old geezers sitting around. There was never, I looked through this stuff. It wasn't just these stank geezers running it. It was just the material was so flaky and bland. I read the Greyhawk novels early on. They were horrible. It was like some shaman dude running around. It was like a fighter, but for some reason he could cast like polymorph other. He's like, I cast an 8th level spell. That was it. And it was like the way they described the book was so horrible. I was so confused. Like, how the hell can you do that? And this is butt. So it didn't work on any level. It wasn't like, well, they went outside the bounds of characters to do something cool. But see, it wasn't cool. And so it left me as a new player at that point fairly well annoyed, and as a reader of fantasy, fairly well uninterested in continuing to read Greyhawk books. So I was always very uninterested. It's a setting of double axe, 2-axe stone brain, and Melf the elf, and all kinds of just campy stuff like that. It's like, dude, are you kidding me? Come up with some damn better names for your stuff. Come up with some more interest. Put a little more effort. Put a little more pride into what you're writing. I don't like to see such shoddy aspects in the game. It's hard for me to suspend disbelief. It's like, your name is 2-Axis Stonebrain, and yes, something hyperbolic. Only a little. That's the problem. The names that you would come up with of the characters in these books, the characters in that setting, are just abysmal. I'm sure there'll be somebody out there going, I love Greyhawk, fuck you. And I'm sure someone has played a good Greyhawk game, but I don't think they've played it because of the material provided. That's my thoughts on that with Greyhawk. I think it's something you really have to work around to make the setting. I'm sure there's a lot written about it, so you can at least render some detail. But then again, I don't know how great a lot of that detail really is to render. I'm not sure. I think Vecna comes out of there. I always thought Vecna was kind of interesting. I'm not the hugest fan of liches. Next on my list is Al-Qadim. Played Al-Qadim before. I believe Al-Qadim only ever appeared as AD&D 2nd edition. I don't believe it was in any other edition. I know it first appeared in AD&D 2nd edition, and I'm pretty sure they haven't re-released it since. I know it's like technically part of Forgotten Realms, but not a part that was particularly dwelled on. I know in the 3.0 line, there's not like an Al-Qadim book for Forgotten Realms, a supplement. So Al-Qadim, it doesn't have the offensive problem of Oriole Adventures, where people are just porting that stuff into anywhere they can because it's broken. It statistically didn't seem like there was anything broken. There was some kind of genie class, caster class or something. There were some interesting things. It had great flavor. It was a well-written, interesting RPG. I am not a huge fan of that particular region. I prefer the European over anything else, that European model of fantasy over other real-world based models for fantasy. And if I'm going to do a different culture, I would prefer to have India. That would be number 2 on my list, followed by, because I've never seen a good, I'm running around with some Tulwars fighting in India. I think there could be some interesting stuff. I like India. I could come up with tons of ideas. In fact, I have tons of ideas for Indian type characters. So I would be down with the Indian game. Now, the Middle East, it would come across with a problem. Kind of. For the Middle East, it'd be like one of those guys who's read everything from Star Wars, and you're like just coming out of the box trying to role play it. Like, oh well, this planet, and you're like, no, that planet's wrong. No, that's wrong. No, I know a lot about the Middle East in terms of their mythology, in terms of their religion, in terms of what's going to be brought into this game. In fact, I'm sure I know a lot more about it than the people that wrote it. So, that being the case, somebody trying to run it, I think it would be difficult for someone to run it and be convincing for me. I think, but that'd just be a personal problem. That'd just be me working against myself, which I hate to do, but I think it would be hard for me to get more invested in it. But I think the material was well written, even though I just said I could pretty much do it better. I still think the material was well written, was interesting, was better than a lot of the stuff they came up with flavor-wise for AD&D 2nd edition. So, onwards to Birthright. I think that this setting, it kind of succeeds at doing something very noble, something I really enjoy, at making D&D a higher role-playing aspect of game. Of course, on the other side, Birthright could definitely turn into a full-on minis Warhammer type of game, which I would fucking be completely against. Would not play in that at all, not for anything. You could hit me in the face with a hammer before I would play in that. I'm not kidding either. So, So it has a very polar side. I think it could kind of come across as a Game of Thrones type game where you're playing this king or ruler or his members of his court and being like all manipulative. And that's kind of aspects really get with me. I like the role playing. I like to get with that. I'm not caring about fighting things. And you're not, as you're playing the king or this shady ass sorcerer or a prince or a kick ass duke. You're not out there on the front lines fighting goblins, and that's exactly what I don't want to do. So the Birthright, I played it before. I like it. It's interesting. It's an interesting game. I like Birthright. It's quite definitely gets a passing grade from me. Next on the list is Dark Sun. You feel me? You heard? Dark Sun is available in both AD&D 2nd Edition and far less recommended Dungeons & Dragons 4th Ed versions. The 4th Ed book, I picked up, they had like Gith in there, and they'd all kind of taunt him around, and I don't know. I didn't like their book. I found it seemed like if you run an AD&D 2nd Edition Dark Sun campaign, and then all of a sudden you got that 4th book, and you're like, oh, more Dark Sun. Oh, this is wonderful, because you should rightfully be excited to have more Dark Sun stuff. They didn't make any outside of some fans cracking some stuff around. There was no Dark Sun for 3rd edition anywhere to be had. So 4th edition gives you Dark Sun. You should be happy, understandably. You pull it out, you look through it. I don't think it would be a seamless transition. You'd be like, shit's kind of way wonky and different now. I just don't think it would run very well from one edition to the other. And I think that's something that I guess a lot of people have problems with 4th edition just in general. So over there's the problem. But Dark Sun, what I love about Dark Sun is, man, you'd be like 7th level, and you get your ass a copper dagger. You're like, I'm the shit. Not only do I have a loincloth, but I have a copper dagger. You be the man. People just come from city-states away to hang out with your ass with your copper dagger. Damn, you copper dagger having motherfucker. Let's just kick it and chill a minute. You opulent as fuck with that copper ass dagger there. Damn, son. In most games you're like, copper dagger. All right. But in Dark Sun, you work for that damn copper dagger. Hell, you start off with like a broken piece of bone. But the Dark Sun was very weird because it held you down in the terms of possessions, and I love that, dude. I don't like the game where you have like 18 halberds and 24 two-handed swords, a team of horses to carry all your gear, 30 extra suits of armor, and I don't care for that at all. I like less is always more. And the Dark Sun character run around in a loincloth with a copper dagger. Oh, hell, with a bone dagger with some ceramic pieces. The fact they use different money. Dark Sun, a big plus on Dark Sun. The city-states, the mythology of Dark Sun was quite interesting. The sand everywhere, the silt seas, the big giant lizards, the scorpion people. The fact you can play a Thrycrin, I think their half-giants are a little on the side. I've seen some very terrible role-playing out of that. I thought it was a noble idea and attempt, but I think the realization overall has not been great. Elves are awesome. The best elves ever made in Dungeons & Dragons reside on Athos. They're awesome. They are awesome. If I'm playing Dark Sun, I'm playing a 7-foot tall elf that can run from one city-state to the other. They're just amazing. I love their elves. Their elves are I can't even stop how much I love their elves. The idea of bondage and slavery and how hard things are being put upon, and the heat and the poverty, and then the just opulent looming of the sorcerer kings. Dark Sun works on so many levels. It gives you this horrible evil to overcome, but your characters aren't going to be these white meat baby faces. No, man, you're a dark, dirty, devilish kind of motherfucker. You have to be dirty to survive. I was never a big fan of the starting at 3rd level. I was never a fan of the character tree you can imagine. I don't like the slaughterhouse implications that they put forward in the 2nd edition of Dark Sun. I'm not a fan of that. The Wild Sonic abilities, I could leave it, but if it's there on the character, I don't think it ruins it. Just in that setting, overall, I'm not a fan. But in that setting, it gave it a different flair. The fact that you could have stats up to 20 was also kind of different, because it was neat. Because you didn't have the complementary of having those baller weapons. Like, you had, like, a weapon that did, like, a point of damage. Like, yes, I have 20 strength and a weapon that does 1 damage. So, it presented a pretty interesting sort of situation in Dark Sun. I've played some horrendous Dark Sun games, and I played some that were very good. The fact you can play a Thrycrin or a Lizard Man or something, that's a turn on for me. I like that. I think that's neat. But overall, elves are the word of the day for Dark Sun. Next on the list, Ravenloft. I ran a Ravenloft campaign, started when I was 16. 4.5 years it lasted, onwards through high school into college. At 16 years old, my game was a place to be on Friday nights. I had men in their 30s fucking showing up to play. I had so many people. I was turning people down left and right. I kid you not. If I didn't, I'd have 100 goddamn people at my table. Everybody in my high school, everybody in like the whole city of Newport News and the city of Yorktown, well, the county of Yorktown, wanted to get in on my game. People would be trying to bring their friends, slip their friend in the back door because they knew if they asked, they'd be like, "Oh no, I can't get with that." I had the same players, at least a good amount of them through the whole thing. Frank Melvin, Ken Jones, Tim Healy, guys like this. And then people would come and go. And there were lots of course, characters that died in a Ravenloft setting. Ravenloft is a brutal setting. I'm not a Slaughterhouse GM by any means, but your ass might just get killed in Ravenloft. I will tell you that right now. So, I know Ravenloft very well, but as a teenager, some of the things that seemed kind of cool, as a grown-ass 35-year-old man, do not seem cool anymore. I don't want to run Bela Lugosi on your ass, because Bela Lugosi is dead, and he don't need to be running around as Strahd Lanzaro message. Children of the night. Oh, yeah, I am clearly not an original idea. I can actually do a much better impersonation there. The voice is starting to go. So, I will subject you to that one. Now, you see, you have a lot of those MGM studio movie monsters in Ravenloft, which is a bad thing. However, there's some neat, interesting stuff in Ravenloft, too. You have, I read a ton of Ravenloft novels, because, again, I run the setting for 4.5 years, so all the inspiration I could get was needed and useful. Surania and the Islands of Terror, I thought, was very neat. The author, Kristen Gold, I believe it was, wrote Dance of the Dead. There were some great details in there. They had like a coin that had like 2 serpents. I love how she described the coin. That still sits with me. 2 serpents on the coin. I liked, the zombie master was like romantic and like dancing with a girl, like the heroine in it. There were like some fey follets. That's what they were called. Like they were good aligned with a wisp that they had like in like Japanese style and all these like paper containers to use as lanterns out there in the swamps. Very bayou feel. I mean, it's sort of. I guess Surania is basically supposed to be like Louisiana. That's pretty much what it is. So it's like Gothic Louisiana, but also in the Middle Ages somehow. So, but it throws elements into the gumbo, you understand. It presents an interesting feel. I like Surania. I would use more. If I were in Ravenloft, it'd probably just be me making my own stuff up, but using the mist and really dialing the Terra up. Because in horror games, and I ran and played horror games later, Vampire the Masquerade substantially above Ravenloft. And then you have Cthulhu much higher than there's other horror games that check in quite well. But that feeling of dread and terror, while I could push it, there were other things from the setting that were working against me. Now, as an adult, I can look back and see that. As a new player, of course, like I said, you have Dracula, you have Frankenstein and his monster. There's a ton of them. Like pretty much everything. From Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, all of it's there, the Wolfman, and that's not original, it's not fresh, that's not what I would pay you money for. Like, I can look and say, oh, I'll make Dracula. I can do that. That's not very hard for me to come up with. I can watch a movie and say, oh, let's do that. But, if I'm paying you money, I expect not to come up with ideas that I could come up with when I was 8. You understand what I'm saying? So, that's not really a great thing. I know people are fans of Strahd, and I ran Strahd and used him, and people love my Strahd, and I played to see Strahd used, and I've enjoyed him. I don't hate, I'm not trying to hate on him, but I mean, let's face it, fucking Dracula, and an 8-year-old coming with that idea quite easily. So, onwards and upwards to number 2. Number 2 is Planescape. Of course, I had the privilege recently of playing my first ever good Planescape game. And that was run by the Gentleman Gamer. We had a big Brady man in attendance, Al-Qadim in there as some stint. Now, I love that game. It's a fantastic, fabulous game. Planescape is it largely suffers from the big problem now doing game design that I see with Dungeons and Dragons is the 5-foot square. Everything predicates off the 5-foot square. Plane after plane after plane are built in levels for you to simply just hack and slash through them. Go to hell, I'll hack demons apart. Or I'll hack, well, you might, man, first level of hell, a lot of times there are demons there. Okay, I try to save myself there, right? Poorly done, I know. But with the Blood War, with the demon, it reduces everything like demons and devils to numbers to be killed. I do not like quantifying demons and devils and angels and things like that to just numbers to be killed. I think you just come up with you come up with a bad game. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna keep it real for you because you're staying at 25 minutes at this point. You want to hear it real. It's just not a good way to do it. I don't like that at all. I think Sigil is neat. I think it's tremendously difficult scene to run. Matthew did a great job with it, but you need a talented game master to pull Sigil off. And I think it could really overwhelm a new game master, particularly listening to his descriptions and how many NPCs he had to juggle, and keeping the environment, which changes, in mind at all times. I would think a lot of game masters would horrendously fail with it. And then there's the can't. So don't pick up Planescape and try to run it the week after. No. You're going to need a good 6 months to digest the material, just out of the Planescape base box set alone, to be able to run it. It's not a quick run, but it is a setting that has a lot of depth, a lot of interest in there. Now, number 1 is Forgotten Realms, and you're going to go, oh, it's not fair, you just slammed Greyhawk. I can say all the same things about Forgotten Realms, and you can, and that's fair. And there's Dritz the Warden. Maybe one day I'll actually release a video on Dritz the Warden and see if like half the people on my sub list go, hate Dritz the Warden. Just a terrible, terrible character. Everything is wrong with that character. But the Forgotten Realms, Dritz the Warden, and Elminster aside, I don't know why they have an Elminster in the game. I do not know why they have an Elminster in the game. He is one of the biggest goddamn problems you will ever have if you're running the game in the fucking Dragonlance. Your players go, let's go talk to Elminster. Let's go talk to Elminster. I've seen it over and over and over in games I'm not involved with. People telling me about games when I'm running the game. The players are like, let's go to Elminster to save everything. Yay. Oh, God, I just hate him. I just hate him. I killed Elminster in my game. Yes, I did. One of my players got real mad, but you, Steve. I don't like it, man. I don't like that about it. But overall, what I love about the Forgotten Realms is there's so much written about it. It has so many details. I believe of every fantasy setting there is, period. Not just role-playing games. Every fantasy campaign, every fantasy setting, and I'll get it right eventually, every fantasy setting, period, I believe that Forgotten Realms has the most written about it. The most. That really says something. That really means something, to have the most written about it. That being said, that's pretty impressive. The amount of details that I can distill from the different books, the different novels, and so forth. And their novels, for the most part, are horrible. Let's not kid ourselves. But when I've run 2 different Forgotten Realms games, I was able to just bring so much stuff out of there. Now, it has a lot. I mean, there's some horrible stuff for Forgotten Realms. Let's not kid ourselves. There's horrible stuff, but it has a lot of great stuff too. And what really works for me with Forgotten Realms, why it comes in at number 1, is the gods. Although I have problems when I go up and down a list, but this would be like 3 more videos long. Is Forgotten Realms? I really like. I like the gods, and I'm like, well, as a player, I'm like, oh, let's play some Forgotten Realms. Yeah, I'll play a priest of Sunni. I'm gonna be in it to win it. You feel me? And I can go on and on. Talos. Who doesn't want to play a priest of Talos? Badass is why. But that's what we got here. Forgotten Realms comes in at number 1, and I look forward to hearing your list. We'll rank them. Let me know what you think. So thanks for watching. I'm gonna get off because this video is going really long.